Freshwater snails are considered the most deadliest creatures on the entire planet. And then they are going to repeatedly stomp on you with their hooves and slash at you with their massive... Currently across the whole entire world, there is no anti-venom ever been developed. If you get bit, it's game over. You're interested to know in what animals can end your life in the worst possible ways. The most torture, the most pain, and it's that type of morbid curiosity that means you should subscribe to my channel. Comment down below and let me know what you think the worst animal to be killed by would be. First up, we've got a very well-known animal, the hippopotamus. Now, a lot of people find these animals quite cute. Other people say they're a bit ugly. They have a love-hate relationship with humans. They're basically like Marmite of the animal world. Now, whether you like hippos or not, you might be interested to know that they're responsible for 500 deaths a year. And that's estimated to be up to 3,000 deaths per year. Luckily, they're only in certain areas of Africa, though. Although hippopotamus appears to be really slow and gentle type of creature, they're actually very territorial, and they're extremely aware when their personal space is being invaded, which is probably something that a lot of people don't realize, and that's how they get killed by them. In fact, it's so bad that most people and guides would consider the hippo to be the most dangerous species of animal in Africa, and Africa has a lot of deadly animals. Now that we know more facts about hippos, let's get on to how they can kill us. If you find yourself walking along the African wilderness and you bump into a watering hole that's inhabitant is the hippo, you might want to say your prayers now, because once you've invaded their territory, there isn't much you can do. You can't outrun a hippo. They're extremely fast, and there's no way that you'd be able to fight one off. Their two front teeth are the size and width of cola cans. That's right, they are thicker than you imagine. Imagine how big the animal has to be if their teeth are the size of cola cans. That is thicker than most people's forearm. Just look at your forearm right now. That is probably smaller than the teeth that are going to insert themselves into your abdomen if you invade their watering hole. Think of that. Hippos weigh up to 3,300 pounds. And when they charge, they charge. They don't slow down for anybody. They're going to charge into you with their 3,300 pound body weight. They're going to slam you to the ground, and then they are going to repeatedly stomp on you with their hooves and slash at you with their massive teeth. Another way that hippos tend to end the lives of humans is if they're in boats on the water that happens to be the hippo's home. The hippo would usually swim underneath the boat and knock it over, and once the human is in the water thrashing around, they'll try to bite you in half. You've seen those videos of hippos eating watermelons, right? Yeah, that's your head now. The hippo also doesn't care what part of you he's biting, so if he starts with your hand or your foot, then you're in for quite a long wait until you reach your demise. Next up, we have the African driver ant. Now, ants are scary no matter what species they are, but these ones might give you a little bit of an extra nightmare if you end up unlucky enough to meet them. The African driver ant lives in colonies of up to 20,000 ants, and they're usually found in the central or east of Africa, but they have been found in the tropical Asia as well. They aren't actually considered that dangerous as long as you don't invade their space and you don't end up sleeping in a nest of them. But if you do happen to be sleeping or drunk or immobilized for some reason, these ants are going to swarm you. And I don't mean that they're just going to bite you and sting you to death. They are literally going to enter any orifice that they can find. Yeah. So you best hope that if you are out drunk, you're not at the same time, because these ants are not going to be fussy about which hole they enter. The ants will then make their way to your lungs, and once they're in your lungs, they'll start eating you from the inside out, slowly suffocating you till death. Now, this is just pure nightmare fuel. At this point, I need to put a prohibition law in Africa so that this doesn't happen to people, or just stay out of the wilderness. Next up, we've got freshwater snails. Now, I know what you're thinking. Snails aren't scary. In fact, we're all so familiar with friendly little snails that we actually find them quite cute. Thanks to shows like SpongeBob and naming their snails Gary and keeping them as pets, We're probably not going to be scared if we came across these in the wild, but you should be, because whilst most snails aren't that scary and are particularly harmless, this one is a different story. Freshwater snails are considered the most deadliest creatures on the entire planet. Not because the snail itself is going to eat you or sting you or crawl into an orifice, but because of what the snail contains. When you swim in water that has these freshwater snails in, you are putting yourself at a huge risk of contracting parasites from the snails. These parasites move from the snail through the water and gain access through your flesh. They are that microscopic, they can enter in through your flesh. If that doesn't make you want to avoid swimming altogether, then I don't know what will. It gets worse. Once this parasite has made its way into your bloodstream, it makes its way to a blood vessel and it can stay there for years. Now, the worm itself won't actually kill you, but what is lethal and what will kill you is the worm's eggs. They don't just lay eggs like most creatures do. They actually turn into their own eggs, but this can take years to happen. Once these worms that have turned into eggs then become worms again, they develop these prongs and they're very sharp. They use these prongs to then bite and tear at your flesh, making their way to an exit. Now, I know what you're thinking.
Which exit?
Well, that's really up to the worm. We don't get a say in this. Once these worms turn into snails, they then desperately need to find a way to exit your body so they can carry on living their life, which means the end of life for you. Stay out of the fresh water. Sometimes these pronged eggs don't quite make it out and they end up lodged into vital organs and other areas of the body. They can cause anemia, they can cause fatigue, which inevitably will contribute to your death. Next, we have the blue-ringed octopus. Now, you've probably heard of these. You might have even seen a picture of them. But did you know that they're only 5 to 8 inches? They're not really the size that you would expect an octopus to be. Most people would say these are beautiful creatures, but if you knew what they were capable of, they're more menacing than anything else. Now, this octopus has a really unique way of showing that it's in fear. Its colors actually get brighter when it gets scared. This is probably a good indication that you should try and swim away. In fact, usually in nature, the most bright and beautifully colored things are usually the most deadly, and they use their bright colors to indicate to other creatures that you should stay away or suffer the consequences. Is up to you. So as pretty as these things might be, you probably shouldn't try and touch one or go near one or stay too long to enjoy looking at it, because it's one of the most venomous creatures in the world. If this octopus poisons you, you will be dead in 15 minutes or less. This is because its venom contains a powerful neurotoxin that's called tetrodotoxin. Now, the first symptom you might experience is a numb face and a very dry tongue and mouth. Now, a couple of minutes after being stung, you're going to find yourself completely paralyzed and unable to talk. You're probably not even going to know what's caused this, as the octopus is so tiny. Unless you were invading its space, you won't even know that it's touched you. Now, what actually does kill you is that about 15 minutes after this toxin has run its course through your body, it paralyzes your ability to breathe.
The breathing muscles contain the diaphragm, the intercostal muscles, accessory muscles of respiration, and the abdominal muscle. These all work together to make you breathe, which are now paralyzed, so you're not going to be able to use these muscles and you're not going to be able to breathe.
There's really nothing anyone can do to help you at this point except to watch you suffer. But luckily, you'll very quickly lose consciousness after this happens. You'll then suffer from asphyxia and death will follow. Currently, across the whole entire world, there is no antivenom ever been developed, which is crazy considering we've got cures for a lot of things nowadays. So the advice would be to stay away from these things. Now we come along to the tsetse fly. This insect might be small, but it's considered the most dangerous fly in the world. It's mostly found in sub-Saharan countries, along with its pal, the mosquito, which is also responsible for a hell of a lot of deaths per year. And guess what? They have something in common. They both like sucking our blood. The tsetse fly will suck blood from animals and humans that it lands on. It's really not fussy. But the scary thing about this little fly is that while it's sucking your blood, it's going to inject you with a pathogen. This pathogen is called trypanosomes, and it is absolutely lethal. This parasite causes African sleeping sickness, which, if you don't know what that is, it's an illness that can cause severe neurological and cephalitic symptoms. These symptoms can include poor coordination, sleeping issues, and character changes or behavioral changes, which is caused by the brain becoming inflamed. The characteristics of these symptoms often lead people to believe that it's a flu, with the person that has suffered the bite growing more and more exhausted as each day passes. Hence the name African sleeping sickness. Again, there is no vaccine or preventable measure for this illness. There's nothing that can get rid of this condition. The suggestion would be to sleep in enclosed and netted areas and don't wear bright colors because these flies really love bright colors. And also try to stay out of wooded or bushed areas during the day, because if you get bit, it's game over. This next one might be a bit of a surprise because they're usually a docile animal that's considered quite friendly and an absolute asset to life. Stung to death by bees. Don't do this. Now, while bees are absolutely critical creatures for the ecosystem and our environment, we would literally not exist without them. They sometimes do attack us, and when they attack in a swarm. This happens if somebody intrudes their space or if they end up killing a bee. This bee can then let out a pheromone which attracts other bees, letting them know that they need help. And what follows will be an absolute massacre as all of the bees swarm from the nest and start surrounding you and attacking every single bit of flesh that they can get their stingers in. These bees are trying to protect their queen, so they're not going to stop until you are gone. And by gone, I mean they will sting every single part of your body that they can get to, even entering through your nose and through your mouth to sting the back of your throat, which will inevitably cause you to suffocate. Now, if you're allergic to bees, the good news is you'll be gone a lot quicker than most people. While being allergic to something isn't great, the anaphylactic shock will take you out quicker than the stings will, which will end the suffering a lot quicker for the rest of the human race that aren't allergic. If you're not allergic to bees, the bad news is it's going to take a lot of stings to get rid of you. 500 to 1,200 bee stings to be exact, depending on the size of the person being attacked. After the swarm has attacked you, if you haven't yet died from suffocation, you will start to vomit and experience extreme diarrhea and cramping. You'll also suffer incontinence and lose the ability to keep urine and feces in your body. Luckily, there is a cure for this, but medical intervention has to happen rather quickly. Even days after you've received medical treatment, the venom buildup in your body can be so much and so intense that it dissolves your red blood cells and attacks muscle tissue, which can lead to death even after you've received the treatment. This is because debris in the system can lead to renal failure that the body isn't strong enough to fight off at this point. Renal failure is where the kidneys stop working, and it's really difficult to survive this. This next one won't really be a surprise to most people because these animals are notorious for being scary as hell and very territorial and aggressive. We have the crocodile. A lot of people mix alligators and crocodiles up, but I can tell you now that if you met both of them, you would want to jump on an alligator as opposed to a crocodile. The crocodile has been on the planet for 200 million years. They have survived every single extinction attempt by this planet, and they are still here today to tell the tale. And you're going to tell me that they're not scary? Something that can live through 200 million years of change and still keep its original features is mind-boggling. They can also grow up to 21 feet, which is absolutely massive. And they have 66 teeth, which they will sink into you if you get too close. Now, crocodiles don't go out and hunt for prey like most predators do. They actually lurk in the waterbeds near the bank of the river, and they wait for their prey to come to them. If you step too close to a river, the crocodile may snap your ankle off and drag you under the water. Or if the crocodile's particularly hungry and it hasn't eaten in a while, you don't even have to get too close to the edge of the river. The crocodile will literally jump out of the water and snap you up like a conveyor belt buffet. And before you think of trying to run away before they leap out of the water and snatch you, you can think again. Not only do they have a powerful leap, they can literally leap up to 30 feet out of the water. That is absolutely mega. Their vertical game is so strong that you won't even have time to realize that it's a crocodile that's emerged from the water before you even turn on your heels to run away. They'll have already grabbed you by this point, and it's game over, my friend. Now, the way that the alligator attacks is absolutely miserable, because what they do is they latch onto a limb first, either an arm or a leg, and they will drag you into the water whilst spinning you around by your limb that's in their mouth. They will twist and turn and pull at this limb continuously while you're screaming in agonizing pain. This is because crocodiles can't chew, so their only way to do this is to basically bite and chomp things off of you and then swallow it whole. Some alligators are actually big enough to swallow people whole as well. And this has become apparent over the years when crocodiles have been hunted and cut open and they've found entire human bodies inside of them. The usual cause of death would be drowning or suffocation, but it's not going to be a peaceful way out of this world. You can survive a crocodile attack, but you would have to be extremely lucky, and you're probably going to be missing a limb or two. It's best just to stay away from the water. Next, we have the box jellyfish. These things are absolutely terrifying. Found in the Indo-Pacific north of Australia, they trap food using their long, dangly-ass tentacles. They trap food by floating along and using their long, dangly-ass tentacles to grab onto things, but sometimes that thing is a human, and these are extremely poisonous jellyfish.